You, of course, are listening to the MHA podcast. Why in the world would you play Isaiah McKenzie over your third-round pick, T. Higgins? Why? I like any quarterback that can make Will Fuller look good.
I love it. I think he's a top 20 receiver.
I mean, he is the Jamar Chase whisperer.
Oh, hell yes. Oh, my God.
You know, everybody loves Lamar Jackson.
Hated it.
I trust Derek Carr.
Come on. For real?
I know why you did. It's because you're crazy.
It's still the week and the games aren't even over yet. It's great. It's fantastic.
Fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Patrick Mahomes. Looks so good. Kyle Pitts was bad.
It's not my shebang. Justin Jefferson.
So good.
We could call him Russell Wilson if you want.
Ooh. Well done, sir. That is good stuff. All of those guys have more fantasy points than Tom Brady. I'm laughing, but I'm crying at the same time. It's terrible. It's time for another episode of the MHA podcast. And this is going to be a fun one as we are just 4 days, gentlemen, 4 days away from draft day. Us three owners are going to be incredibly generous on this episode and unveil our sleepers and busts right here on the show. So if you tune in the next 4 days, you're going to get some information that might be beneficial to you on draft day. Eric Lansing, Mikey Renault, Todd Diamond, here with you on this Wednesday night. Fellas, what is going on? Preseason games are over. Now it's time full throttle on that fantasy football research. Are you guys ready for the draft?
I'm 95%.
95. What 5% is left?
You know, just making those, I think that last decision, of who my number one pick is going to be. That's the 5%. Everything else, I think I'm all ready to go.
I thought you knew already.
I do, but there's still a 5% that I might, I might go rogue and, do something different. I know I said McCaffrey, and that's still the 90%. That's still like the 95%, but at 5%, I could. I could shock the world, which, I do on a daily basis anyway, but, I could shock everybody at the draft and really go off script. So you just have to wait till draft day.
Already interesting start to the show. Mikey, can I guess on a scale of 1 to 100 where you are in terms of how ready you are for the draft? Can I guess?
Sure. Take a stab.
I'm gonna say, because I know Mikey's always looking for things and looking for advantages. I'm gonna say you're around 73%. How's that sound?
That's very specific.
70 to 75? I don't know. I was just trying to pick a number. That's
better. I would say 70 is probably pretty good number. Now is the time where in these last few days where I'm really like cracking down on like late round stuff, trying to find, and this plays well into this podcast, but trying to find those sleepers that maybe I can catch that maybe other people can't.
Always important, those late round picks, whether they're rookies or whether they're guys that maybe had off years or down years, and it's incredibly important to get that depth because injuries happen all the time. It's football. They're out there just smashing into each other. So definitely important. I don't know. I don't have really a number, but there's a lot more work to be done, and I'm happy to kind of have Saturday off so I can work on and finish all my little details and go through, but we'll see. I'm excited. It's just a few days left to go. Also on this show, gentlemen, we'll talk about some bold predictions. I don't know if you guys remember any bold predictions from last year, but we'll talk about those. And if we have time, we'll also do a mock draft, maybe the first round and maybe also the second round. Just depends on how quickly we get through the news and, of course, the sleepers and busts. But let's start things off with the news.
I don't understand what the news is. It's just like, hey, here's a bunch of you can't fix that happened that was horrible.
All right, let's get into it. Probably the most positive news from this last week. Last year's rushing leader Josh Jacobs signs a 1-year deal to stay with the Raiders. So now we don't have to worry about if he's going to sign or if he's going to hold out. He got a little extra money for this season on the 1-year deal. So he'll be in the lineup and ready to go week 1. How about more news from the running back department on the not so positive news? We mentioned last week Jonathan Taylor was allowed to seek a trade. Well, the deadline for that came and went, and he's still a Colt. And so the team also placed him on the PUP list. And so if I heard right, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but if he's on the PUP list, is he out 6 weeks or is it 4 weeks?
It's 4.
Okay.
4.
So I wasn't real sure. I know, like, if you're injured, there's a certain amount of time, but I thought I also heard 4 on a podcast. So even if he gets traded to another team for some magic, I don't think he can. I don't know if he gets released and someone picks him up. He still can't play the first 4 weeks of the season.
That's correct. That's correct.
I mean, that's tough. I mean, you could think, well, maybe he gets traded and he's still worth his, I don't know how people are viewing him these days, late first round, second round, third round, whatever the case, but not to have him 4 weeks, Mikey, that's pretty tough to have him high in the top 4 or 5 rounds of the draft. What do you think?
I think I wouldn't touch him before round 4. Like I said all along, like I felt like his situation was different than Josh Jacobs was from the start, and that proved to be true. Jacobs is back. But Jonathan Taylor, like, this is a fight between him and the owner.
Yeah.
The owner's going to win in that point. Like, he's going to be out 4 weeks, but I honestly think it's going to be longer.
Yeah, I mean, what are they really playing for anyway? I don't think they're out there trying to make the playoffs and shock the world. They're just trying to get through this season and build up some draft capital. And, as Mikey mentioned, like, owners could just be like, whatever, dude, you could sit and watch the rest of the season and we don't care. So it's crazy it ends up that way. I'm surprised they didn't. Well, maybe I'm surprised, but I think Mikey's not surprised that trade did not happen because they were asking for so much in return, even though, it was hard for Taylor to get to that other team. There's just so much stuff stacked against him, but unfortunate. So, there was already a lot of questions with his injury coming in and his ankle, and now who knows when if he's even gonna play this year. A lot of questions. It'd be interesting if someone takes. I'm sure someone will take him at some point just to see. But man, tough for the guy who was the number 1 running back just 2 years ago. Let's keep the running back train moving. Dolphins released Myles Gaskin. The next day, Vikings signed him. Should we be excited, Todd, about Myles Gaskin? Backup
Not
to Alexander
really.
Madison.
I mean, not really. I mean, are you really just is Gaskin, Jonathan Taylor? No. I think it's still Alexander Madison for his position to lose. So I think they're just going to go with him. But no, Myles Gaskin really doesn't. It's not turning the meter for me, or the needle. So okay, another mediocre running back. I mean, okay, if Madison less than mediocre, I guess. But if Madison's
you've already said too much about Myles Gaskin. I was looking for no.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Just messing around. Good news. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow back at practice today. So for those interested, any concerns or injuries that may have held him out a couple weeks, seems like he's going to be ready for week 1. So that's good news. Trey Lance, one's third overall pick, has been traded from San Francisco to Dallas for a 4th round pick. Good for San Francisco to get something out of that. I'm sure none of us are any interest in drafting Trey Lance. So I'm just going to keep moving things along. For those interested in Buccaneers this year, their center, Ryan Jansen, out for the year due to a knee injury. It's 2nd year in a row he's missed. So not good if you're a Rashad White guy or if you're interested in any of those wide receivers. We saw how great they were without him last year. It's probably not going to get too much better. Rookie quarterbacks getting the start in week 1. Of course, we know that Colts rookie slinger Anthony Richardson, he was named a starter a while ago, but we got confirmation on the other 2 guys and CJ Stroud for the Texans. And Bryce Young with the Panthers, no huge surprises, but just that's what it is. So, those wide receivers, those running backs for those teams, those are the quarterbacks, and of course those numbers always go down unless one of these quarterbacks have an amazing start to the season. Fantasy points aren't usually in I don't know how to say it, but it's not out there. It's not exciting for sure when anytime you have a rookie quarterback. Last news, and I thought this was funny just because it's in the intro of our broadcast or podcast. I just say Isaiah McKenzie was cut today. Aw.
Oh, dang. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, poor guy. Yeah. Anything else that I missed, guys? I tried to keep on the old social media to see what's going on, but I didn't see anything else.
Oh, that sounds about right.
Sweet. You guys ready to get into some sleepers?
Yeah.
All right. Let's divulge information we probably should hold into the draft, but that's what the podcast is for, is to talk about. I think it's always fun to kind of go through it and look back on it a year later and see how we did and keeping track of it throughout the season. But sleepers, guys who we think are going to outperform where they're drafted. And so I'll start things off with Todd. What I told you guys, and we'll see how much we get through here. We're about 10 minutes already into the podcast. I told you guys, give me one sleeper quarterback. And we kind of talked about some of the quarterbacks early on when we had the opportunity in the quarterbacks position. Told you 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs. We'll kind of go through. We have 1 tight end. But I'll start with Todd. Quarterback. You have a quarterback sleeper for me?
I'm going to go with Kenny Pickett, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously going into his second year with the Steelers, obviously got to see what that offensive line is going to look like. But Kenny Pickett, he definitely showed some flashes last year. Being the kind of coming in mid-season, to some degree I think they should have just started him to begin with. But that's just me. But Kenny Pickett, they have him projected. Actually, I'm projecting 21 touchdowns, 3,420 yards throwing, and so forth. So I think Kenny Pickett definitely could be an interesting sleeper. Potentially depending on how your team is kind of getting constructed. Maybe in the first few rounds, if you feel comfortable with him, then I'd go with Pickett.
You say the first few rounds of the entire draft? Someone's going to draft Kenny Pickett?
The first, maybe like you get down to the 8th or 9th round and see where you are there, and you still haven't picked a quarterback yet.
I don't think it's happening there either.
Okay.
Well, look, I mean, do you see? I mean, I don't know. Look, I don't hate your answer. In fact, I have a bold prediction on Kenny Pickett, but I think you're talking about the top 12 quarterbacks. You think he can finish in the top 12?
I think so.
Now, I mean, it's sleepers.
Bold prediction.
That is a bold prediction. But okay, I mean, you like him as a sleeper. Cool. I don't think he's going to, I don't think he gets drafted as the top 12 guy unless someone's really, really in love with him. But I don't hate it either. Mikey, do you have a quarterback sleeper for me?
I do. I had Jordan Love. He played really well in the preseason, and I was skeptical about him, but man, he was throwing darts out there. Like his final preseason stats, he had 21 of 33 for 183 and 3 touchdowns. My concern with him is, that they've got a decent rushing attack and maybe they go, more running, but like I'm intrigued. He's got a nice young receiving core, with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, who was their 2nd round pick. Like I'd be willing to take a shot on him, like as a backup. For me, over guys like Daniel Jones or Justin Fields.
Not Daniel Jones. You love Daniel Jones. Let's see. That's the answer I was looking for, Todd. Not necessarily that you would draft him as a top 12. Like in all reality, you may draft Kenny Pickett as a backup, and if he does great, then you move him in your starting lineup. But that's kind of the answer. I think that's in terms of a sleeper. That's probably what in essence is going to happen if someone drafts him. This is going to be as a backup. And a guy that I have that could end up possibly going into a backup position, my sleeper was Brock Purdy. And I kind of talked about this. I don't know if it was last episode or 2 episodes ago. I just love the weapons he has out there. I mean, we've talked about him throughout these preview podcasts. You know the guys. I've mentioned him before. He was just a rookie last year. You know, he's 5-0, hasn't lost a game. Now, does record indicate fantasy points? No, probably not. But he has 13 touchdowns and 4 picks, so he's been pretty efficient. The thing that you can say about the 49ers is that they may not throw as much. He didn't have any huge completion totals, but he was only a rookie. You know, he came in, only played in 9 total games, started 5, and maybe let the gloves off a little bit with Ayuk out there and Kittle out there and Deebo Samuel. Christian McCaffrey can catch passes. He's a guy that's not going very high if you're talking. I mean, it's always hard to say, well, where they're being drafted. Our league is different than other leagues, but you know, some folks aren't even kind of looking at him. If you just go to CBS, he's going around 25, and he's someone that could easily get into 17, 18 if things go well. I mean, is that still worthy of fantasy? No, probably not. But for a guy that's young, that threw for close to 1,400 yards in only 5 games, there's a lot of upside there. So I'd be interested to see. Yeah, and they traded Trey Lance. You know, I think he was only kind of the guy that maybe like, well, if Trey Lance starts playing well, is he going to overtake Purdy? They traded him because they have the faith to run Purdy out there. And with that 5-0 record, why not? Give him a shot. All right, so that's some quarterback sleepers. Let's move over to the wide receivers. I'll start with Mikey this time. Who do you got, buddy?
All right, I talked about him last week, but I've got Jahan Dotson.
All right.
Year 2, there always seems to be that progression with wide receivers from year 1 to year 2. I mean, concerning with him as a quarterback, obviously, Sam Howell's a bit of an unknown, but like, to be honest, like, he can't be worse than Carson Wentz. Like, to be real, like, I mean, he only had 35 receptions, 12 games, but he did have 7 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin's already dealing with a toe.
Right.
And, you know, I wanted to bring up, I did see a stat that the Commanders, the Commanders, they were the slowest team in terms of pace last year.
I don't like that stat.
No, yeah. However, the fastest team was Kansas City. And now Eric Bieniemy's coming over there as the offensive coordinator. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there is some definite sleeper potential with Jahan Dotson.
I like it. He averages 3 receptions per game last year in 12 games, but you know, tough situation with the quarterbacks and Sam Howell. If you guys take any into account preseason play, he's been pretty good. From what I haven't seen everything, but from some of the stuff I've seen, he's looked pretty sharp. Todd, give me a sleeper wide receiver.
Well, this was one of my favorite, I guess, players or rookies that I thought was going to be good and might be a sleeper. But Quentin Johnston, excuse me, of the
Calvin
Chargers.
Johnston, yes, of course, we've heard about him.
Calvin Johnston, exactly, Calvin Johnson, Megatron, everything. Yes, I think, again, obviously I'm high on him just because I think what he can do. And obviously I'm basing this a little bit too on the fact, you know, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have a tendency of getting hurt a lot. And I think, you know, again, you're with rookie wide receivers, sometimes it's a hard transition, but I think at the end of the day, I think Quentin Johnston can can be one of those sleeper ones. And you know what? If obviously I'm going to try everything in my power to draft him, but you can get him maybe in the 9th or 10th round. And he can end up putting up some really good rookie wide receiver numbers. So there's my sleeper.
Mikey Renault. Are we witnessing growth in Todd Diamond and his fantasy understanding that he loves the guy? He's going to do everything in his power to get him, but realizes he can wait till later in the draft to pick him up. You believe that? Our little Toddy's growing up.
I'll believe it for today, but Sunday I want to see if it actually is true.
If he loves him, it may go earlier, huh?
Correct. Which I don't have a problem with that. Like, if you like your guys, you like your guys.
Yeah. But I think I think that's the whole point of fantasy is finding the value. We all have guys we want. We all have guys that we target and we think that have breakout seasons. But it's all about evaluating when you can get them and picking up other guys and better value and getting them later and still having them. Like, I understand it's always a tough game, but I think that's when you can win out, is when you can get a guy you really like, but realize, well, I can get him later. But it's also about having fun and getting your guys too. So I'll throw a wide receiver sleeper out there, and I've talked about him too on this podcast, but Christian Kirk, I feel like he's being disrespected. I understand that Calvin Ridley's in the mix, and I know Mikey has him higher than Christian Kirk. But for someone, Ridley's going around wide receiver 15, and Kirk's going 11 wide receivers later. He's going behind guys like Jahan Dotson, Deontay Johnson, Jordan Addison, Drake London, and I understand why some of those guys, a couple of those are second year wide receivers, and one's a rookie. But I mean, this guy was fantastic last year. And I know there's a lot of talk about, well, he's playing more in the slot this year. He played 52% of his snaps from the slot last year. So he's very familiar. And he set career highs across the board. We all know those numbers. If anybody's doing any kind of reading on fantasy, we understand the big numbers he put up last year. And for Lawrence, who had 584 attempts last year, you talk about Zay Jones, who had 121 targets and 82 receptions. I feel like Christian Kirk's going to be even if Ridley's the number one guy, let's say he's the number one, Christian Kirk can be number two and still put up better numbers than Zay Jones. And so I feel like he's being a little disrespected because Calvin Ridley's coming in. And I hope that's the case. I'd love to get him late, or depending on late, whatever your definition of late is, but I'd love to have Christian Kirk. And so, I mean, with Calvin Ridley there, with Evan Ingram there, and ETN who can catch passes, Kirk may never be a top 10 guy, but I still think there's top 15 potential there. And because we still don't know what Calvin Ridley's going to bring to the table. Yes, he's looked solid in preseason, but is that for sure going to last an entire season? I'm probably going to take Kirk before I take Calvin Ridley. Mikey, another wide receiver sleeper. You got another one?
Yeah, I got another one.
All right.
My other one is my other one's Michael Thomas.
Oh, come on. We're doing this again?
Sleeper.
Bold prediction, but go ahead.
Sleeper. Okay.
I'm sleeping already. I'm tired of it.
I am not saying he's going to be top 10. I am just saying he's a sleeper. Okay. He says that he's the healthiest he's been, since 2019, which is encouraging. That he was offensive player of the year that year, by the way.
Wow.
The big concern is, that's 3 years ago. So I totally understand that, and I can't argue against the concerns given his injury risk, but I will say, given his 2 games he played last year, he did perform well in both of them. I get he's 30, and I know David Carr is not Drew Brees, but he's serviceable, and I think he's better than Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton. So even if he's not what he was for where he's probably going to be taken, I think that he still has a chance to be a steal.
All right, I'm putting you on the spot, Miguel. I'm looking at CBS Fantasy's rankings. They have Michael Thomas around 39. Do you have him around there too?
No.
You're going to tell me if it's higher or lower than that? Are you going to keep this a secret to yourself? And I'm fine if you want to do that.
No, I'll tell you it's higher.
Where do you got him ranked at then? It's higher than 39th?
Yeah, I don't have my rankings in front of me, but
okay.
I know it's higher than that.
All right, Michael Thomas, ladies and gentlemen. Todd, do you have another one? Wide receiver sleeper?
Super sleeper. I'm going to go with George Pickens, wide receiver for the Steelers. That's another one guy I was high on myself, but he's in his second year as well. So I think this could be, people can be a little skeptical just because, sophomore slump with George Pickens. Pickett, excuse me. And
Pickens, yeah. You're
Pickens,
right.
yeah. Golly, so many Pickens, Pickett's.
Pickens, same team.
Yeah, geez, freaking peas everywhere. Anyway, but I just think obviously him and Pickett, there we go. I had a good rapport, but we'll see. Obviously people are like, well, he's gonna have a sophomore slump, but kind of came toward the end of the season. But I think Pickens can definitely, I think he can surprise some people I don't think he's going to go very high. I'd be very surprised. I think, if anything, maybe the high, maybe like 7th or 8th round. I think he drops that far. I think, because you still don't know. Because really, with the Steelers, it's the offensive line. You got to, and that's the thing we talked about with Najee Harris. Well, and Mikey brought up this point. I can't believe I just agreed with Mikey. That offensive line isn't really good. So, how is that going to affect it? And is that going to affect the rest of the offense? So there's my other sleeper.
Why would you not want to agree with Mikey? He was the number 1 seed during the regular season. I think you should agree with him more often.
No.
No?
What? That, folks, is why Todd Diamond is drafting number 2.
There
you know what, Mikey? Shut it. Yeah, you shut it. Just shut the front door, okay? Shut the front door.
At least his Pickens is tied in with his sleeper quarterback in Pickett. I can appreciate that. I don't have another one because I ended up using this wide receiver as a bold prediction. So I only ended up with 1 wide receiver. So let's move on to the running backs. And Todd, give me a sleeper running back.
All right. Well, granted, he was injured last year, parts of last year, but Cam Akers of the LA Rams. Obviously the Rams offense, with injuries with Stafford and thing in between. So I think Akers was definitely going to drop a little bit. But I think he can, I think he can definitely have a bounce back year, because I think either teams are going to look at our owners are going to look at like, well, okay, it's Cam Akers, he's coming back. How's the offense going to look? But there might be 10 to maybe go with a rookie rookie running back compared to Akers because he gets hurt a lot. So we'll see. But I think he might be a good candidate for a sleeper, to get him in the later rounds and maybe possibly a lottery ticket.
Where do you have Cam Akers ranked?
I have him ranked. Let me just bring it up here 1 second. My rankings. I think I had him in the. Let's see, right here. Come on, computer. This is when you can play the music. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh yes, I could have done that, but didn't.
Yeah, I didn't. But you didn't. Okay, all right, it's coming up right now. Come on, technology. Let's go.
Cam Akers on CBS is going around 26 and 27, around 26.
Okay.
In terms of ranking of running backs.
Okay. Oh my God.
And Todd's.
There we go. Okay.
His, Microsoft Word is not working very well.
So I have Cam Akers ranked 20th.
Okay. Do you like Cam Akers? Yes or no, Miguel?
I'm indifferent on him. Like he had some pretty good games at the end of the year.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I'll tell you all about it. Christmas Day. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Like I just don't know that I'm bought all the way in on him.
I'm just scared of the whole offense in general, honestly. But yeah, Cam Akers, I think there's upside. He's probably, Kieran Williams, I think, is his main backup. So he could get all the volume, but can he handle it for an entire season? I have him ranked 24, so right around there. Mikey, who you got as a running back sleeper here for 2023?
I went with a rookie.
Ooh, rookies are always fun.
And I went with Deuce Vaughn.
Wow, that's a super sleeper.
From the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
They are missing 231 attempts from Ezekiel Elliott last year. That is a lot. And Tony Pollard at 6'209", I don't believe can handle a full workload. Like, and even if he could, like at that size, he becomes an injury risk. So I feel like Deuce Vaughn is somebody that I think will get some work, like maybe third downs, maybe some passing game stuff, maybe even some red zone stuff. But like in the event of a Pollard injury, he becomes number one. Like, I don't know. I feel like he's a big time sleeper.
Yeah, I love the stat on how many carries have left behind. I don't know if you said carries or touches, but it was definitely more than
carries.
200 carries. So that's a ton. I will say that Deuce Vaughn's not a big dude, but he's a guy that could come in. And I mean, they have Rico Dowdell also in the mix. but I
Next.
agree. Tony Pollard's probably not, if you're going to say that he's going to have 350 touches, that's a lot of touches for a guy that's, probably below average running back size. So someone's got to pick up the pace, because I know Dak Prescott ain't going to throw it as much as he wants to, because you've heard my disdain about Dak Prescott. Another sleeper running back. I'm going to throw you guys one here. What time is on my clock here? We're about 30 minutes into this one, so we may pick up the pace a little bit here, but I'm going to preach to the world Kenny Walker. I know he was on my guy last year. He's kind of going around running back 20, which I feels like is a bit low. He finished 16th last year, and he didn't miss them, but he didn't play a lot in the first 4 games of the season. And so they have the same offensive lines. That's not going to change too much. I know they drafted Zach Charbonnet, who can catch a few passes. He's dealt with some injuries here. I think Kenneth Walker's dealt with some groin stuff, so I wonder if that's why he's getting pushed down a little bit. But man, he passes the eye test. He's not going to catch a lot of passes, but that's okay. It's not going to be Charbonnet who's going to bully his way in the end zone. Geno Smith has 2 rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. So if we feel like this offense is going to be what it was last year, Kenny Walker from game 1, give him a full season, back into 15th overall in terms of running back. So still excited about Kenny Walker, even though I think a lot of people aren't because of the big Charbonnet drafting. And I understand. Obviously, it's always the running backs that get hurt with Seattle, and so there's always that. But I'm going to take a chance on him if there's an opportunity, based on my rankings and where he falls, that he could be back on the old Lemonheads once again. I think we're gonna. All right, give me your sleeper tight end, but make it quick, Mikey.
Mine's Tyler Higbee. This is pretty simple. Stafford is healthy. Last time he was, not only did they win the Super Bowl, but he threw for 5,000 yards, and a lot of that went to Cooper Kupp, but they also had Robert Woods and Odell Beckham, which are not there anymore. So Higbee's probably the secondary target.
Love it. That's a good sleeper. Todd, who do you got?
Juwan Johnson. I just like the fact the quarterback now with Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr, likes his tight ends. So I think Juwan Johnson he'll flourish.
All right, let's get into the bus a little bit. Let's start with our quarterbacks who we think are going to bust or going to underperform, where they're being drafted. Todd, who do you got?
Geno Smith. I know I think I think obviously, going into last season, the Russell Wilson gone, Smith was going to was going in, and who knows, the expectations were not probably that high, but I think he might be coming down to earth, and I think people are going to be a little shocked and awed of how bad he's going to be. So.
Do you feel the same way, Miguel? I know you're not a big Geno Smith guy. He finished 7th in our league last year. I have him ranked 8th so far. Do you feel like he's due for, I don't know, a drop in the rankings?
No, it'd be hard to do. I mean, he's still got 2 really good receivers, an offensive line that's improving. He's got a decent run game. They added Jackson Smith and Jigba. God, it would, he would really have to take a dive. So
he's gonna take a dive.
I don't super like him, but I don't think he's going to fall flat on his face.
Yeah, I agree. I still kind of like him. Those 2 wide receivers are amazing. You mentioned they had 2 rookies last year, and there's only upside for those guys to make the offensive line a little bit better. He had 4 50-point games last year. I'm not a big Geno Smith hater. I mean, there's just a lot of positive things, but I don't know how high he can get, and I don't know if he can put up better numbers and 4,300 yards and 30 touchdowns, but I wouldn't mind having that if I waited on quarterback. But Geno Smith, one of Todd's bust candidates. What about you, Miguel? You got a bust quarterback?
Oh, you know who my bust quarterback is.
Justin Herbert. Jalen Hurts.
It's a Justin, but Herbert's not the guy. Justin Fields.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, that guy. Great running. I'm going to compliment him. Great running quarterback. Absolutely fantastic running quarterback. Added DJ Moore. Love DJ Moore.
Did you just say you love him, or everybody else loves him?
If you can't tell, I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, no.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
But, I mean,
no idea.
We are a point per completion league.
We are.
And yeah, he just doesn't offer the value there. 12.8 completions per game last year, which just made it completely asinine that Todd had him in his top 10. But that's why Todd's drafting. That's why you're drafting second, Todd. You want Justin Fields, you can have him.
So no hope that Fields gets better. I mean, he finished 16th in our league last year. If he could put up 250 completions, he gets 3,000 yards and maybe gets over 20 touchdowns. Is that possible? You're not asking him to put up Josh Allen or Justin Herbert type numbers, but if you combined 250 completions with 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 1,500 rush yards and 10 rushing touchdowns, that'll probably put you close to 10.
I don't see it.
But you're asking a lot.
You're asking a ton.
You're asking a lot. I mean, he had 2 50-point games and a 60-point game. So those rushing touchdowns help. We've seen rushing quarterbacks in our point per completion league do well.
There's just no way that you can, and yeah, I get the blow up spots, but there's no way on a week to week basis that you can consider playing him, because he could follow that 55-point game with a 22-point game. Then you're screwed.
It's tough. And I'm just saying this basically because Todd, having him in the top 10, he's still young enough where he could get better. But you're asking a lot. I wouldn't draft him as my starting quarterback, but depending on where he goes, he could be a backup.
We'll see. Not
Mikey
on my
says
team.
no.
Not
on Mikey's team. I don't know if mine is considered a bust, but I am so dreading watching the Broncos this year and Russell Wilson. Oh man, I was so excited with Sean Payton. He came in with that coaching pedigree, his ability to work with shorter quarterbacks like Drew Brees. He had a great offensive design that carried the Saints for more than a decade. I don't know if I'm feeling it. The offensive line hasn't looked great. Wide receiving course can't stay healthy. I mean, for what Russell Wilson did last year, to be a top 12 quarterback, I don't think he's going to run. I mean, he looked better running in those preseason games, so that's positive. But is that enough to get you into the top 15 and maybe on the verge of a streaming quarterback or maybe an early backup quarterback? And maybe I'm just being a negative Nelly, and I've said this to Mikey and just about every game. Like, maybe I'm being too negative, but I haven't seen anything. Even they were 41-0 this past weekend against the putrid Rams. Not just Russell Wilson, but the whole offense in general. It's kind of freaking me out. I'm going through the rankings and I'm moving Javonte Williams down and Samaje Perine down. Even if Jerry Judy, ends up playing in week 1, which I'm sure is a stretch, I don't even know if I want him as early as some of these folks are taking him. So just a little. I hope I'm wrong. As a Bronco fan, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to try to stay away as far away from this team as I can.
Eric, why don't you just say it? You want to burn your Russell Wilson jersey. Just say it now.
Burn it. I'm not going to burn it. I will wear it, but I am just so concerned, at least as a fantasy owner.
I know
that I'm not going to get 3,500 yards and 27 to 29 touchdowns. Like, that's what you're kind of looking for in a quarterback in our league at the very least. And I don't know if we're going to get that.
Yeah. Well, you hope for. Here's
the Bronco talk from Todd. Here we go. Go ahead. We don't have that much time, so keep it short.
Just from the side from it, you hope in reality that the Broncos get better because like I've said it before, we've mortgaged so much of our future. I don't think we even have any more draft picks left to do it. So it's got to work. So let's continue on.
Am I being a negative Nelly, Mikey?
A little bit.
Okay. Just a little. All right. Well, let's keep rolling here. Let's Mikey, give me your favorite wide receiver sleeper.
You mean
Bust.
bust?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, bust. We're in the bust segment. I'm trying to be positive, and I go right back to the sleepers. Give me another bust. Let's keep it negative here.
All right. I went with Devontae Adams.
Ooh,
Now, hear me out on this.
love it.
Like, a lot of this, I don't necessarily think has to do with Adams at all. Like, Jimmy G as a quarterback just doesn't give me confidence. I mean, this is somebody that never has thrown for 4,000 yards in his career, has battled injuries, and the QB room behind him, should he get hurt, is not good either. I mean, right now, Aiden O'Connell, who I think is a rookie, is the backup. Like, I think Adams is still a great receiver, but I just feel like there's a lot of ways that this can go sideways.
Sideways.
Are you willing to divulge where you have him ranked?
I think I had him ranked 6th.
Okay. All right. That's about where I have him too. There's definitely concern. I'm considering he finished 3rd last year. And you just said it today, that Derek Carr is a serviceable quarterback, and Jimmy G, who is decently accurate, but Brian Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell behind him, if something goes down, and I don't think he's 100% right now. So it is definitely scary. The upside's still there, because maybe Garoppolo has his best season yet, but how much are you asking for in that? how much to the fantasy football gods you're hoping? But I mean, we all had reservations about Derek Carr, and Adams was still pretty solid, but I don't hate your pick. Todd, wide receiver bust. Hit me with it.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay.
Because again, he's going to Tennessee. Obviously, the Titans got him just purposely to have a number 1 wide receiver, but obviously they still run the ball a lot, and I just don't know if Hopkins. I mean, obviously it's going to be Tannehill is the quarterback, but I'm just not liking Hopkins in that offense. Because again, they just still run the ball a lot, and just I don't know, because if they run the ball a lot, there's going to be times where Hopkins is going to be a little like, hey, throw me the ball. Now, granted, hopefully Ryan Tannehill throws him the ball, but I just think he's going to have a down year. So I have him as a bust.
All right. I don't hate that. I understand there's a lot of negatives around Tennessee altogether. And then to have Hopkins come in, and can he stay healthy for a full season? And while he's still incredibly talented, is there enough passing volume for it to matter? I mean, he's made A.J. Brown look good in the past, but A.J. Brown was probably like 10 years younger than DeAndre Hopkins. So we've mentioned plenty of times how the passing offense is just not what they do. That's not what they want to do first.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, because Hopkins was my other one, like, Tannehill gets hurt and they're done. World of trouble. Like, they were 30th last year in passing attempts per game, 31st in red zone attempts. So, yeah, I don't really like him either.
Yep, I'm not super high on him either. I think there's a point where you have to take him, but I'm not out there like putting a target, considering how good and what a great career. And he still has that name value, so someone's going to jump on him probably before any of us even think about it. But, yeah, Hopkins is not a good spot. And another wide receiver that I used to be high on, and I think he's still a really good player, but Marquise Brown, I think Arizona might be tanking it. I wonder if we see Kyler Murray this season. And if we do, is it the last like 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks?
Clayton Tune time. Josh Dobbs.
Oof.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. So Marquise Brown, who I've liked in the past, I've said it on the show many times that I think he's got the ability. Even when he was with Baltimore, he was putting up good numbers. He's only 2 years removed from 91 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns in his very early stages of his career. But for a guy, I don't know where he's going now. I'm trying to look now. He's around 43, so maybe that's not a good bust candidate. But for a guy that had so much upside in that whole offense, and they traded I think he was a first-round linebacker to the Giants not too recently for like a 7th-round pick. So it just seems like they're not up for trying to make anything count this year. And so Marquise Brown kind of has like that name value. In my initial rankings, I had him in the 30s, but I definitely moved him down as this preseason goes along. Because I thought, well, maybe Kyler Murray would be back, and James Conner, a guy who I'm not super high on as well because of what this offense might look like at the end of the day. This could be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and it's always hard to grab fantasy value off of that because it ends up being kind of contagious where, well, we're not winning. Management's not trying. Yeah, I'm getting paid, but is that enough unless I'm trying to play for another contract? Like, what are we really playing for? All right, let's go into bust running backs. We'll start with Todd.
All right, so one of mine is, I think, and you guys are both high on him, but Ramon Stevenson.
Ramondre.
Yeah. You know, I understand what he did last year, and it's still a Patriots running back, and they signed Ezekiel Elliott. And we talked about on the last podcast or podcast before when they signed him, and I said, you know what? It kind of reminded me a little bit, and Aaron did a little reminder over our text chain here. Because I mentioned that Ezekiel kind of reminded me a little bit of Corey Dillon's situation. Coming in there and on a team where, now granted, the team was a different team back then, the Patriots in 2003, but Ezekiel Elliott comes in with a little chip on his shoulder. And I think that's going to hurt Stevenson a little bit because, Belichick's going to either ride the hot hand or, going to trust him a little bit more. So we could see, we could see 1 week where Stevenson has 3 touchdowns and looks great. And and you guys are like, yep, see, Todd, I told you. And then next week doesn't really have a good game. And Zeke comes in and has, only has like 2 touchdowns, but rushes for, 100 yards, whatever the case may be. So I think Stevenson takes a little bit of a hit there. And yeah, granted, I wasn't high on him. So I don't know if that bust kind of cancel each other out, but that's what I have.
I just want to quickly say, comparing him to Corey Dillon.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Dillon was in New England at the age of 30. Ramondre is 5 years younger. Ramondre caught 69 passes last year. You know the best season that Corey Dillon had receiving the ball? 2002, when he had 43. Different running backs. I understand the stigma that comes with having a Patriots running back, but he was able to accomplish this last year. And yeah, Zeke comes in, and I'm being perfectly honest, I moved him down 2 spots in my rankings. But there's still amazing upside. And who knows what Zeke has left in the tank. And so there's going to be touchdowns lost. But Ramondre, who finished 9th last year, only had 6 total touchdowns with a receiving touchdown in that mix. And so it's not necessarily all of the touchdowns. I think initially we were super high on him because there was no one there. And if he could just find 3 or 4 more touchdowns or opportunities to punch it in, that puts him into that 5th, 6th category. But he doesn't necessarily need those touchdowns to be fantasy worthy. If you can find a running back that can catch passes, especially with Mac Jones, who is not that good of a quarterback, they're going to rely on him even more. But that's why I like Ramondre. Did I like him more before the Zeke thing? Absolutely. But I still think he's going to be an exciting running back for fantasy purposes. Mikey, did you give me your running back bust yet? I don't think so.
I have not.
What you got, homeboy?
I have Josh Jacobs.
Ooh.
I am very concerned about the 340 carries that he had last year. To me, that seems like a very difficult number to repeat, especially considering he didn't have training camp. This quarterback situation is worse. I don't like the Raiders as a whole, to be honest. I don't know. It's amazing to me, like, what 1 year could change an opinion. Last year, Jacobs was picked in round 4. And now, based on what he did last year, understandably, he can be a round 1 to 2, which I consider to be very risky.
So if he's sitting there for you in the second round, you have other guys ranked higher. I guess in terms of running backs, I should say.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I would have to go a different direction.
I get it. I will say the previous 2 years, he's nowhere close to 340. So, like, I don't feel like he's like a Derrick Henry that has accumulated 300 plus attempts the last 3 or 4 seasons. So maybe he's still fresh at 25 years old. I see your point. You always see those stats where guys that have had over 300 attempts, it always goes down the next year. But he's also playing for another contract. So maybe there's that kind of situation. Now, the O-line is mid-pack, so that's not the worst thing to hear. Not much in terms of competition behind him. So, yeah, I could see it, though. Not having training camp's not great. But it seems like they're going to run him into the ground once again, because I doubt he's back next year, because it doesn't seem like they're willing to give him a contract.
Yeah, my thing is just like, who is he really? Like, is he really as good as he was last year? I'm not sure.
Mikey's not sure. One of my busts was, we kind of talked about. It's interesting. I love how all of our busts kind of work with our other sleepers or other busts or whatever. But like James Conner is one of my busts, and so was Javonte Williams. So I've kind of already talked about their situations. Probably don't need to go into that. You guys want to do some bold predictions as we get down we are 51 minutes in. So
yeah, let's do it.
Let's get into some bold predictions. Now remember, folks, I'm telling you guys, I'm telling the owners, whoever's listening, these are bold predictions. These aren't sleepers where it could happen. There's rhyme and reason. These are predictions that are like way out there, that if lightning struck, or it's a lottery type of win situation, a lot of stuff has to happen in order for this to happen. This isn't like, oh, you were stupid for not getting it right, Todd. It's like, well, that's a bold prediction, and we're not expecting it to happen. It's probably like less than 25%. We think this is going to happen. Now we're going to have reasons why it might happen, but let's just be wary that this is bold predictions. We're not shitting on it because it's totally out of the realm of possibility, because that's kind of the point. Mikey, go first. Let's shit on yours. I'm just kidding.
So I broke this into tiers. So with my 3, so I have bold, I have pretty bold, and then I have really bold. So which one do you want?
I love it. Let's start with the bottom and go up.
All
well,
right.
let me ask you this. We are at 51 minutes. Do we want to go through all of these and not do a mock draft, or do we want to give a couple and do a first round of a mock draft?
Todd probably wants to do a mock draft.
I'm sure he does.
So if that's the case,
but we can also save that for us and not divulge who we're picking in the first round. But that's up to you guys and what you want to do. I'm down for whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm good with whatever.
Well, go ahead, Miguel.
Yeah, I'm down to do whatever.
Let's just go bold predictions and then we'll end the show. Sorry, guys, no mock draft. We want to get these bold predictions because I think they're incredibly fun to talk about, and it really gives them a spectrum of how we see possibilities go about it. So, Mikey, let's go with your least bold, or whatever that first spiciness of bold it is, and then we'll work our way up.
This is actually a one I think you're going to crap on. So, my just bold one. All right. So this one is that Cortland Sutton becomes fantasy relevant.
No.
So
we talked about this while we were watching the game. I think I even said, like, can he be fantasy worthy now because of all this stuff? But go ahead. Cortland Sutton.
Judy hurt to begin the year. Patrick's out. He becomes the number one option. He's 2 years removed from the ACL, which is good. I have faith in Sean Payton's going to figure out a way to use him, especially in the red zone. I don't think numbers that's, similar to his best year, which was 2009, are impossible. That year he had over 70 catches. He had over 1,100 yards. He had 6 touchdowns. I think he could meet or exceed that.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I would draft him before I drafted Marvin Mims. I think a lot of people, he's a rookie. I think I would take my chances with Sutton. I'm looking at CBS's rankings. They don't even have Sutton in the top 60 as far as I quickly went through it. Someone has him at 49. So, okay, they're kind of around the 45 to 50 range, but Yeah, I mean, I, I don't hate Sutton. It's just been a while since I've seen any production, and I haven't seen anything in the preseason. But bold prediction, I like it. Todd, give me one.
All right, I will go with Garrett Wilson will finish as the number one fantasy wide receiver. Boom.
Is that bold enough, Miguel?
I think so.
Okay, we'll go ahead, Todd. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think at the end of the day, again, it's Aaron Rodgers, and because again, take it with a grain of salt watching stuff on Hard Knocks or whatever it is, but I think Aaron Rodgers is a little giddy, knowing okay, I got a young wide receiver. This guy's a star in the making, and he's going to make plays. So I think he finishes number one in fantasy football as a wide receiver. Boom.
Okay, bold prediction. Well, on that same note, I'll tell you who I think as my bold prediction will finish as the number one wide receiver, and I'll say DK Metcalf. He kind of started things off as a sleeper for me, and then I was like, man, let's just go to the top. Let's bring Metcalf to the top. Dude led the league in end zone targets last year with 23, which is 10 more than the next guy. And I know touchdowns are a very unlucky stat, but sometimes those things kind of balance themselves out the next season. Just imagine if he would have picked up, let's just say he picked up 4 more touchdowns. He would have gotten to 10. All right. He would have had close to 200. He would have had 198 points, which would have had him ranked 6th amongst wide receivers. So let's say, imagine if he gets to 15. He could be in that mix for number one. And as Mikey mentioned on this show a couple weeks ago, there was only one guy that had 13 last year to be in the mix for top wide receiver. So if Metcalf can get anywhere near 15, and especially with that rookie wide receiver who's now on the shelf for a few weeks, it's now just him. It's now just Lockett. I love the opportunity that Metcalf could finish as a number one wide receiver. Love it. DK Metcalf. Mikey, your next round of bold predictions.
All right, so this is like my medium bold prediction. So I've got
Is that like Tabasco or is that Red Hot? Like, what is the next
it's
spiciness?
Yeah, I don't know how to put that, but here's my prediction.
Okay.
So Jahmyr Gibbs, not only will he finish in the top 10 amongst running backs, but he will finish ahead of Bijan Robinson.
Oh, that is bold. I love it. Jahmyr Gibbs. Why do we say that?
So, I mean, the Lions' offense is already pretty good. I think it's still improving. He's somebody that is dangerous in the passing game. And more often than not, I kind of went in this direction just because of my hatred for David Montgomery.
You do hate him.
Yeah, I just don't believe in him. So I feel like Gibbs is going to take that over pretty quick. And so, yeah, I look for big things.
He's not a big dude, right? Is he a big? I'm trying to find I don't have his stats in front of me, but he's not a big dude, right? He's not like a 5'11", 210, 215 like Bijan is. He's more of like a
5'11", 200.
Okay, so he's not like as bulky, but he's still got some height on him. Okay, and you can always add some bulk, and he's a big speed guy. They're always obviously talking about a lot of receptions and in his game. So if he can pick up those receptions in a hurry and score more touchdowns than Swift did in his time in Detroit, yeah, I like it more than Bijan because obviously Bijan's getting all the love in terms of rookie running backs, and obviously Bijan's going as a top 5 running back in some cases. Overall. Todd, give me another bold prediction.
Okay, this one's kind of a medium one, but Derek Carr will finish in the top 5 in quarterbacks.
That's not medium.
That is spice. That is red hot. That is that's quite the theory.
Yeah. Again,
is this like Chris Olave love? Like what's the big deal with Derek Carr?
I just think I think it's more of, and my thinking with my how I analyze things, whether it's reality or fantasy. But again, he's new place, and I think he just has something more to prove. Again, I think players, it really does go into the fantasy mindset too, compared to just reality. But he's going to a place and he wants to prove that the Raiders made a mistake. So I think he's going into he's going to play in a dome. That's always a good thing there too. I think some quarterbacks, prefer, obviously love playing in a dome because you don't have a lot of the elements. And but I think I think Derek Carr shocks the world and finishes finishes in the top 5. So there you go. There's your spicy.
I always love psychologist Todd. Oh, he is going to have that chip on his shoulder. Let me tell you.
Everyone has an axe to grind.
He's got a lot to prove. All right, so but I mean you said medium. That is quite hot. I'm trying to decide if I go medium or if I go quarterback segue. Let's go medium. Here's my medium, and you guys can tell me if it's even worthy. But I have Rashad Penny finishing with more fantasy points than DeAndre Swift. Swift is ranked higher than Penny on the depth chart, so I already have that against me. Swift is getting paid way more money than Rashad Penny, and Swift is getting drafted around the 6th and 7th round, and Penny is going about 20 running backs later. And maybe this is my affinity for Penny. I've always liked him, and so I feel like in a bold prediction that he's got a lot to prove. He wants to make more than the money he's making now, that he's going to go out there and show what he's capable of. And DeAndre Swift will kind of still be that third down back, catch some passes and work in between the tackles a little bit. And Penny's going to be that first down, second down guy. He's going to be the one at the end zone as well. So give me Rashad Penny with that awesome offensive line over Swift. I don't know if that's medium or hot, but that's what I'm rolling with.
I like it.
Like it. All right. So our last ones, guys, we're over an hour, so let's make it quick a little bit. So Mikey, give me your ultra bold prediction here.
All right. So this one, I have Justin Jefferson. I believe he will break Cooper Kupp's MHA fantasy record of 332 points. I also think he will break Calvin Johnson's NFL record of 1,964 receiving yards.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean,
that's bold.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson had 269 MHA fantasy points last year. So, that roughly puts him within 63, I believe. But he steadily progressed every year in the league by like 2 points per game. So,
wow.
Combine that with them losing Thielen, losing Dalvin Cook. I believe Minnesota's going to have to throw. And he's like an unstoppable force. So, like, I think he's going to do some big things. We'll see if he's the number 1 pick this year. I don't know if Miles listens to the podcast, but
my heart says no. He's not even going to be at the draft. So maybe we get to decide. If he doesn't send in a list, then maybe we let Todd decide who he wants, and then we give him the other one. But we'll see how that plays out. That'll be a group decision.
Yeah, I felt like that was bold, but because I mean, just you guys remember Cooper Kupp, like he was averaging like 20 points a game, which was ridiculous. So it's going to take a lot for him to do it, but I think he can.
All right. It's definitely bold. I don't think it happens. And here's why I don't think it happens, because of what you said about Mr. Kirk Cousins on primetime. And I believe, if I've counted this right, he's got 6 primetime games this year. So if he's going to fold, those are 6 games where he is not going to do well and not help your buddy Justin Jefferson. But that's just me. I'm just messing with you. I'm not trying to shit on you, but it is definitely really bold. Todd, what's your last bold prediction?
All right, this one is gonna be the one that the volcano just is ultra spicy. This one's gonna burn. This one's gonna burn. Aaron Jones. I know, what a shocker. We'll have a total of 20 touchdowns. There it is. And whether it's and thing is, I'm not going to say like if it's going to be more rushing touchdowns or more receiving, how it's going to equal to 20, but Aaron Jones will have a total of 20 touchdowns. let the hey start now, because this is what it is. Boom. That's bold, ladies and gentlemen.
Any thoughts, Miguel? Any thoughts?
You know, he did have 19 back in 2019. Granted, this is a long time ago. My issue with it is like 2 rushing touchdowns last year. Like, he's going into age 29 season as a running back. Man, I just don't know if he gets enough volume to do it.
We're not here shitting on Todd's bold prediction. It's a bold prediction for a reason.
That's right.
But I mean, it's funny because of his love for Aaron Jones.
Yeah, that's what makes it funny.
That's what's funny about it. And what's even more funny is that's who he's taking in the second round. Unless someone else believes he's going to get 20 touchdowns this year, he's going to be Todd's number 2 pick. All right, so last thing is before we get out of here, here's my last bold prediction. And Todd kind of talked about it already with his sleeper, but how about Kenny Pickett finishing as a top 10 quarterback this year? And some of the reasons why I went that direction is he's got a plethora of talented pass catchers. We've talked about Deontay Johnson, who's a good PPR guy, George Pickens, who, if you haven't seen him play, he's really fun to watch. You got Pat Freiermuth, who's back, Najee Harris, who can catch passes. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. He didn't put up a ton of numbers. He didn't play, of course, the entire season, but here's some completion totals I thought was interesting in games he played. So he had completion totals of 34, 32, 25, 25, 20, and 26. Now, do I honestly believe he's going to finish in the top 10? Of course not. But as a bold prediction, if things go right, and Mike Tomlin's obviously a very good coach, and I mean, he'd have to throw a lot more touchdowns than he threw last year. But Kenny Pickett, there's a lot of upside for that guy. And so I'm just going to say top 10 as a bold prediction. So there you go. Kenny Pickett makes his name twice on this MHA podcast. So, gentlemen, draft day in 4 days.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Excited.
Yeah. Draft is
Mikey's got 30% left research to go. Todd has 5%.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably in the mix of somewhere between 75 and 80%. So 25% left to go to finish on my research. The thing I have to do more than anything is do my research on defenses and kickers. I hate doing them, but I feel like I never do it because I'm so worried about other positions that I get to the end. I'm just like, whatever. And then I pick them, and maybe I should do more research on them.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's like 5% of the 25% I have left.
Don't
is to look at them.
Don't spend more than an hour on kickers. It's not worth it.
I don't know. They're getting traded all over the place.
I know, the Broncos,
including the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going on?
The Denver Broncos. Did we ever figure out what the Broncos gave up to get the kicker?
7th round pick.
Yeah, 7th round.
A 7th rounder? Okay. All right.
There you go.
Awesome.
To get a decent kicker, I'm fine with it, if he's decent. But he's going to have to kick a lot of field goals, in my opinion, because we're not going to score that many touchdowns. All right. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on and divulging information that maybe you wouldn't normally do 4 days before a draft, but I think it's a fun time to talk about this type of stuff. And then the next time we have this show, we're going to talk about how the draft went and who the draft winners, losers, sleeper picks, all that fun stuff. So for Todd Diamond, Mikey Renault, I'm Eric Lansing. We'll see you next time on the MHA podcast. And I'm just drawing it out so I can put the music in because I always forget the gosh darn music and it's not playing. So we'll just exit out and I'll put it in post. See you next time.